Let me let everybody in. All right, welcome everyone. Today is Wednesday, midweek of our corporate 90-day run call with Neumi. This is an everyday call that's leading up to our global summit coming up in July 11th, less than a couple of months away. And so we're pretty excited about all the events happening that particular weekend. Be excited that someone invited you to this call because we got Dr. Jerry Shaw is going to be our main speaker today. My name is Keith Chasson. My wife Jamie and I are Double Diamonds with Neumi. We've been here since April 16th of 2022 and couldn't be more excited. You know, when we got started, I had a pretty good knowledge of Neumi's flagship product, the contents of it, molecule called glutathione. And when I heard about the delivery, the nanosublingual delivery of this particular product, I got really pumped. I knew finally somebody figured out a way to get exogenous or supplemental glutathione into the cell and by bypassing the gut. And that makes all the difference in the world. It's just a huge advancement in delivery technology. And so we wound up learning about an additional product they got, this Neumi's Skin. You just spritz and go, right? A one-step shop to skincare. And we really got, my wife has always been excited about the skincare part of the deal. And so she got really pumped up about that. And we just begin sharing with a few people because I had some significant results from using the NutraSwish. And so many people have been. Today, Dr. Jerry is going to actually explain the technology and why it's so effective and efficient when it comes to balancing the human body and bringing it into more of a homeostatic environment. But before Dr. Jerry comes on, I get to introduce what I like to call a Neumi's poster child. Sherry got started early on with Neumi before we actually had a network marketing side or house of the company. And she got to use the product beforehand with some significant results. Sherry's from Indiana, a lot of great success in the world of network marketing. And with her being one of our partners with Neumi, I couldn't be more excited because she also exudes character and integrity when it comes to this industry. So y'all help me welcome my friend, Miss Sherry Werner.
Thank you so much, Keith, and welcome everyone to the call. This is your first time here. Fantastic. You're going to be amazed by what you hear. And if you're a repeat listener, well, you know what you're going to get when you hear Dr. Jerry. It's fabulous info. Why am I here at Neumi? I met a gentleman about 14 years ago by the name of Steve Scott. So we've been friends for 14 years, and he's also the founder of Neumi. I believe that you're going to get to hear from Steve and Aaron probably tomorrow as they are back from a huge Indonesia trip, Philippines and Indonesia. I am a diamond leader in Neumi. As Keith said, I've been with Neumi since the launch of July 21, but really even before, as I was one of the test market people for the Neumi's Skin. You will get to see my before and after picture, and I call it the good, bad, and the terrible, but it has truly made a change in my life. The Neumi's Skin is amazing, has great benefits other than just spraying your face, and of course our Swish product, as you're going to hear Dr. Jerry talk about it. So it is my honor to introduce to you Dr. Jerry Shaw. Again, if this is the first time you're here, just get your notebook and your pen out because you're going to need it. He's going to share with you some really powerful information. If it's the second time, get your notebook out and your pen because it's even going to be more powerful. So let me give Jerry an honor here. He has over three decades in functional medicine. What is functional medicine? They look for the root cause. And you're going to hear Dr. Jerry say that for 40 years, he knew about glutathione, but he didn't know of a very effective and efficient way to get it into the body. He's a 1980 graduate of Pasadena College of Chiropractic. He studied a technique with Dr. Gonstead. I think I'm pronouncing his name correct. He worked with the Olympic team doctors, Dr. Leroy Perry, the founder of the International Sports Medicine Institute. He has extensive study and experience, domestic and international, with traditional Chinese medicine, He's opened and ran 3 different multidisciplinary clinics in West LA and San Diego. He's going to talk a little bit about that. And guess what? He retired from functional medicine due to network marketing. So he's got a great testimony to give you. He has decades of experience, and it's my honor to introduce to you our guest speaker today, Dr. Jerry Shaw. Dr. Jerry.
Wow, Sherry, that is awesome. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Jerry.
Thank you so much. You know, that sounds like a different lifetime ago to me now because that was a lot of work back in those days, and long hours, and many days of the week, and commuting on freeways in California. It wasn't an ideal life, but it was a great life in terms of getting to meet people, getting to meet allied health professionals and work with them, gaining a deeper understanding of the human body, how it works, and its challenges. And it's a time of my life that I wouldn't trade for anything. And the reason that I oriented that way towards various disciplines, multidiscipline approach to health and wellness, was it was part of my own health journey and kind of unraveling. As a child, I'd seen the inside of doctors' offices more than a child should. Literally hundreds of times by the time I was age 12 because of a rare diagnosis that I had been given. And the challenges that came along with that taught me many things. But learning about coming back to a place of homeostasis, as we say in Western medicine, was a great journey and something that caused me to be on a mission to share, that knowledge. But along the way, you find many different issues that people have. And back then, working with patients, we were finding these issues that they had were centered around the gut primarily. And it's gotten worse these days because in the mid-90s, the introduction of glyphosates, these very powerful herbicides sprayed into the grains and many of our crops, has caused even further damage to the gut. The accumulated problems of just the environmental issues, air, food, and water, the forever chemicals that tend to accumulate in the environment, they also accumulate in our bodies. And over time, we deal with these. And you add that to the fact that ongoing on a daily basis, we have this body, it's like a gasoline engine operating, burning primarily glucose, but also lipids for energy, and having byproducts that are oxidative agents. You combine all of this, and it's amazing that we're all still here, talking with one another, because it's a lot of things work against that health and wellness and that balance. So it really is a tribute to what this body is capable of doing, the adaptation and the compensation, the ability to achieve balance in all of these kinds of circumstances. And the prime molecule that we kept coming around to was glutathione. Even back in the early 80s, we were finding the studies back then of glutathione in liver function, glutathione in gut function, glutathione in brain function, immune function, even back then. And it's become exponential these days. Now over 184,000 peer-reviewed published studies on glutathione because of the fascination with everything that it does in the human body and is capable of doing. 400 known functions, and probably many more than that. But just think of those organs like the liver, for example, or the gut or the brain. The liver has 500 known functions. The brain is like the most advanced supercomputer the planet has ever seen by far. And so imagine all the functions the brain has, and imagine the importance of the gut. That's the barrier. We eat foods, and it's the gut's job to let certain nutrients in, of course, allow the digestive process to take place, allow nutrients in and take some nutrients out. So all of these systems are vitally important, all supported by glutathione levels. Of course, every cell is supported by glutathione levels. You can't take any cell and pull it out and say, this one's not. Every cell needs glutathione just to survive, just as life does. So we know its importance, but the paradox is that as we get older, we have less and less of it, from 12 to 15% per decade. So literally every day you have a little bit less. And the reality is, or the best case scenario would be, is you had a little bit more. Because just like in the environment, toxins tend to accumulate, and it's that way in our bodies. We actually need more glutathione as we get older, not less. And we run into more and more challenges as we get older and as we begin to age a little bit. It would be great to have more, not less. So when we looked into how we could upregulate this, and just like Sherry said, you look for the cause in functional medicine, you really want to support the mechanism. You want to support the body's ability to do what the body does best, what we were created to, divinely inspired and created, this great instrument. That's why it can adapt and compensate and achieve this balance, even though through all of these challenges. But there are breaking points. And when those breaking points happen, then disease begins to start. And just one of those mechanisms we've discussed on these calls often, and that is the breakdown of the gut from, like I mentioned, the glyphosates. Well, an overuse of antibiotics, the terrible diet that most people eat. And the gut begins to become weakened and the flora becomes imbalanced, not a normal flora, something in medicine we call dysbiosis, and it's really hard to correct that. So what happens then is the wall of the gut begins to become eroded, and once it becomes eroded, then it can't function properly, so it becomes permeable. Those tight fibers begin to open up, and the particles come through that could wreak all kinds of havoc. And just to show you a couple of mechanisms that happen because of that, one is first the immune system is activated, the macrophages. Those are the gobble up molecules like leukocytes and lymphocytes. They gobble up those large particles. Where do they end up? They go to the liver, because the liver's got to break that all down and start over again, because the liver produces the precursors for the gobble up molecules. Another thing that's happening is not only is the liver overworking, the immune system, as it becomes overworked and not as able to do its job as effective as it can because it's being overworked, now goes to the third line of defense, first being the barrier, second being the gobble up macrophages, the third being the T cells. There's two phases of T cells, Th1, Th2. Th1 is pretty sharp. That's the one the body wants to use, but that requires high levels of glutathione to support the glutathione peroxidase, to support the mechanisms of attack that the Th1 uses. And when you don't have adequate levels of glutathione, what happens? It flips over to Th2. Th2 is not as discerning. That means it can recognize the invaders by a protein profile, but if that protein is similar to a profile that it finds within your body, it could easily start reacting to that protein that's actually in your body. If it's in the synovial membranes, that's rheumatoid arthritis. Creates an inflammation, it attacks, inflames, rheumatoid. If it attacks the myelin sheath of the nerve, that's multiple sclerosis, attacking the myelin sheath, inflammation, multiple sclerosis. If it attacks connective tissues, it can become things like scleroderma and lupus. Those are autoimmune diseases of connective tissues. If it's in the spinal cord, ALS, brain, Parkinson's, all of these different tissues can be recognized not correctly and reacted to. And once the T cell reacts to something, it memorizes it. That's why these conditions are almost never cured, because once it's there, once you're reacting to it and you have those template cells, it's really hard to flush them out and start from square one again. So the best case scenario is don't go there. Properly support your immune system. And glutathione is the mechanism of support. How can we get it in the body? That was the conundrum. That was the dilemma, dating back, like Sherry said, 40 years ago. And we couldn't do it. Not effectively, not efficiently, certainly didn't show anything clinically. So we relied on recommending food choices. And those were, like vegetables, cruciferous vegetables. We encourage people to get out, go for a walk, get some sunshine, get a light exercise. Too much exercise actually depletes glutathione, as does stress, as does all of the toxins that I mentioned that are in the air, food, and water, clothing, and building materials, everything we're exposed to on a daily basis. 80,000 chemicals plus are approved for industrial use, and more all of the time. In this country, in the United States, there are 30 different food groups that are not even allowed to exist in other countries. So what does that tell you? That tells you that the regulatory people aren't as concerned about taking care of us and our well-being as they are about allowing industry to make more money and thus them make more money. So we have to take some matters into our own hands. And one of the things that we can do is attempt to upregulate this mechanism so that it doesn't fall prey to all of those diseases that can affect us due to the loss of glutathione support. So we had tried that, as I said, with these outside kind of interventions, and without much success. Some doctors actually relied on IV administration, but I could never get on board with that because in functional medicine, you never want to overload the body with anything, and that's what I saw the IV doing. Anywhere from 1,400 to 10 to 12,000 milligrams of glutathione at a session. So what that does, in many cases, it offsets the benefits, which glutathione does, getting it into the body, by negatives, because anytime you overload the body with something, now there's breakdown pathways. There's pathways the body has to elicit to eliminate the excess. So then that's what happens with the excess. It's not getting into the cell. It's being broken up into the blood and in the liver into glycine, glutamic acid, and L-cysteine. Glutamic acid flips over to glutamate, which is a brain inflammatory, not good. L-cysteine in its breakdown pathway goes to cysteine, which is a nitrogen reactive species, not good. There's a gene that take it from that cysteine to a sulfate so you can pee it out that requires molybdenum, I believe, or manganese, one of those. And if you're deficient in that, that gene is really slow, so you don't eliminate it fast enough, so it stays around and raises some havoc. Plus, you look at the half-life of glutathione being around 90 minutes, not a good thing, because then you'd have to be getting IV on a consistent basis a couple times a week to even be effective. Why do it? So I believe most of the conversation around IV glutathione was more of an emergency situation, like an acetaminophen overdose, where they really need to rapidly detoxify the body. Why? Because it's widely recognized that glutathione is not only the master antioxidant, but the most powerful detoxifier of the cell. Now, here's the big deal about our body being able to create glutathione and why I think as we get older, we produce less and less of it. It's a multi-step pathway for the body to actually create glutathione. There's a couple of important genes in that pathway. And there's a GCL gene right at the end that puts the glycine and the glutamic acid and the L-cysteine together, and boom, you have glutathione. That gene can become blocked by heavy metal toxins. If a person has heavy metal toxins, glutathione is great at removing heavy metal toxins, but if the heavy metal toxins are strong enough, it lowers your body's ability to produce the very thing that could help it. So really an issue, a real paradox. Also, mycotoxins can slow that gene down, and that's mold exposure, pretty common also, like heavy metal toxins. If you live in a humid environment, the infrastructure these days might not be holding up so well, and leaky roofs into walls and things like that. You never know when you're having mold exposure because oftentimes it's behind walls, hidden, those kinds of things, and it's just happening. And you're producing less and less glutathione because of it. There's a couple of trace minerals, a few trace minerals that are important to have intracellularly so that your body can grab those and produce selenium, magnesium, or just name a couple that are important for glutathione production. So if the ability of the cell to pull in nutrients and utilize them and metabolize and utilize them is low, then you could run deficient in producing glutathione. So all of these things stacked against us cause that issue. And here's the brilliance of what Stephen Scott was able to accomplish. And I heard about Stephen Scott back in 2006. and I heard that he, was working with a glutathione precursor, a pretty good one. But I was busy in life. But I thought, wow, I kept hearing about this and all the different celebrities that he worked with, and owner of Total Gym with Chuck Norris and Christy Brinkley, had worked with Cher and Kathy Lee Gifford and Meredith Baxter Burney and Michael Landon and many other celebrities, up over 90 different celebrities. And I thought, what an amazing guy that is. An interview by Larry King in 2004 as the breakthrough millionaire. So it was in the back of my mind. And when I heard that he had a breakthrough in glutathione delivery, obviously I wanted to hear what it was. And when I heard that they had nano-sized it, less than 10 nanometers, and you got to understand a nanometer, that's 1/1000th of a meter. That's extremely small. So small, it's hard to get our heads around that. But that's where they needed to get to, and no one else had been able to do that. But there was something very important also that they needed to do. They needed a carrier. They needed something to carry that to the cell. Because anything that small, you're going to be able to take into the mouth and into the blood. Brilliant. But one of the issues with glutathione, it tends to clump. The molecules will clump together, and now they become larger again because of these clumps. It'd be harder to get it into the cell. So through ultra purifying water, 40% more pure than hospital IV water, they were able to create a special bond off the oxygen molecule from the two hydrogen. You have oxygen and two hydrogen molecules, that's water. They were able to bend the hydrogen bonds that literally created an envelope to carry the glutathione molecule. Amazing. The ability to do that, that's the hydrostat technology that is unique to Neumi. They manufacture this. It's unique to them. And they started testing it once they had this capability. And this goes back just a few years. And Steve decided the best thing to do would be to test it with athletes, because athletes know right where their norm is, right where their performance level is. Trained athletes know exactly how fast they can run, practically to the millisecond. They know exactly how much weight they can lift. They know exactly how fast they can cycle or whatever. So it's a great thing to do. And they began to realize on these tests, and they were taking older athletes typically who had passed their prime, and they were causing these older athletes to break their personal records, even though they were years past their primes. And a great example of it is Bill Gillespie. Bill Gillespie at age 49 was able to bench press 804 pounds. Huge. Oh, great. Thank you, Keith. This is awesome. Bill Gillespie could bench 804 pounds. You can see it right there in the picture. That's a lot of weight. I mean, I've never been present with somebody benching that kind of weight. Anyway, that was age 49. By age 59, Steve's talking with him. He's a friend of Steve's, and Steve had known him over many, many years. And Steve's asked him how he's doing. He said, well, not all that good. And Steve asked, well, why not? He said, I just can't compete with the big boys anymore. I'm not in the elite class anymore. I'm struggling to bench press around 700 pounds. Steve said, do you mind trying something? We're working with a product that I believe you'll see some, because I think it'll support cell function and recovery, and I think you'll see some benefits. So Bill started swishing. He swished before he worked out, during his workout, and after his workout. And he found he could actually lift heavy more often. And because of that, he was climbing back up to his original status, the 800, but he passed the 800 mark, went into the 900 marks within a few months. To cut the story short, by age 62, he decided to retire, but he went out in style. Now, keep in mind, at age 59, he was struggling to bench press 700 pounds. By age 62, we're talking 3 years later, 1,129 pounds broke a world record. That's a 40% increase in the amount of weight he could bench. It seems impossible, but that's just a testament to what properly supporting this can do. If you properly support what this was designed to do, Now you can optimize it. And they were finding it with other athletes as well. And one of those, Sherry Warner, that introduced me on this call, she was a cyclist and very good at it. And she was breaking personal records. And one day she went head over heels in the bicycles, hit the pavement going 22 miles an hour, skinned up her face terribly. Next day, woke up in the hospital. The doctors are looking at it and saying it's going to be 5 to 6 weeks before we can even assess this, meaning we're going to have to fix some things, very likely some plastic surgery, but we're going to have to let this heal before we can even assess it. Well, Sherry, knowing the benefits that the swish was giving her and upregulating the function of her body, thought, what could it possibly do, or what could it possibly hurt? Start dabbing it on her skin. So she did that multiple times per day. And in 5 days, the face was healed. The surgeon couldn't believe it. Steve Scott said, I believe we have the best skincare the world has ever seen. And they added a few ingredients specific to the skin, and they've got it. They nailed it. Best skincare the world has ever seen, we believe, absolutely. So now we've got the combination of the inside out, which is the swish going in, getting into the blood and into the cells within 70 to 90 seconds. Now here's the before and after pictures. We have the best before and after pictures of anyone, anywhere, with any kind of skincare. No one can deny it if they see this. So these are just examples of what happens, and that's why we tell people, when you start with Neumi, take a before picture, and then 30 days, 60 days, 90 days, take your after pictures. And even if you have no plans of developing a business out of this, do the before pictures anyway, because you're going to be so impressed by looking at your before and after pictures. You're going to want to share it with your friends, and they're going to want to try this product. Almost guarantee you that. So why not allow that business to take hold? You might share it with your neighbor or a cousin, and they might share it with someone that lives in the Philippines or Indonesia that Aaron and that Steve just got back from. And people are clamoring to get involved with this company because of the results, because of everything that's happening. And we have, as I said, the outside in, and well, the inside out and the outside in. So we cover all bases. And, you may, as I said, you may not think you want a business. I mean, these days, many people do. I just heard this morning that 46% of small business people cannot pay their rent right now. So what's going to happen month on month in, month and month and month, with these small businesses not being able to pay their rent? That doesn't bode well for our economy. That doesn't bode well for people in general. People are struggling. Why not take Stephen Scott's greatest breakthrough ever, as he himself has said, and help take it to the world, and certainly help your family in multiple ways. Not only living stronger, longer, and better lives, but actually living more comfortably and more secure. So if someone did send you this call to be on today, and you are here for the first time, don't hesitate. Don't let the grass grow under your feet, because this is just getting started. 3 years. July 7th of this year will be 3 years old, but it's just hitting momentum now. There's a time to join a company when you really go into a momentum curve, and now's that time. So get back to whoever invited you to this call, and we'll see you here again tomorrow when Stephen Scott himself is here, and Aaron Renner, the CEO and president of Neumi'S, is here. And you'll be blown away, because that's what we did 2 years ago. We just invited people to hear Steve and Aaron, and everybody that saw it wanted to try this product. And that's what's changed lives and changed the world. And